Why do we celebrate the new year on January 1st? What makes this day so special? These questions are often asked, yet rarely pondered upon in depth. New Year's Day, the first day of the Gregorian calendar year, is a symbol of renewal and hope. It's a day that is universally celebrated, transcending geographical boundaries and cultural divides. It stirs a unique sense of excitement, a palpable energy that encapsulates the anticipation of the unknown, the promise of new beginnings. People across the globe welcome this day with open arms, often marking it with grand festivities the preceding night. It's also a time when many of us make resolutions, setting goals for personal growth and transformation. We see it as an opportunity for a fresh start, a chance to wipe the slate clean and begin anew. To understand the importance of this day, we must delve into its rich history. Rewind to more than 2,000 years ago, when the ancient Romans first celebrated the New Year. You see, back then, the Romans were quite the party animals, and they loved a good celebration. But New Year's Day wasn't just any celebration. It was dedicated to Janus, the god of beginnings and transitions. Janus was a fascinating deity with two faces, one looking forward to the future and the other peering back at the past. This dual perspective made him the perfect symbol for the new year, a time of both reflection and anticipation. But why January 1st, you ask? Well, the Romans had a logical reason for this. Their calendar, known as the Julian calendar, was based on the cycles of the moon. January was the first month following the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, and it signified a return to longer days, a fresh start, if you will. So, they deemed it fitting to start their new year on the first day of January. The Romans celebrated this day with offerings to Janus in the hope of gaining good fortune for the coming year. They exchanged gifts, decorated their homes with greenery, and threw parties that lasted into the night. This tradition of celebrating the new year has persisted through the centuries, evolving into the worldwide festivities we see today. But here's an interesting twist. The new year wasn't always celebrated on January 1st. In fact, different cultures and societies celebrated the new year at various times throughout the year, often aligning it with significant agricultural or astronomical events. The ancient Egyptians, for example, began their new year with the annual flooding of the Nile, which typically occurred in mid-July. However, the celebration of New Year's Day on January 1st was not always a global standard. It's a testament to the power of tradition and the ability of an idea once planted to spread and take root across cultures and continents. But that's a story for another time. As centuries passed, the date of New Year's Day shifted according to different cultures, calendars, and religions. The journey of New Year's Day through history is a fascinating one. In ancient times, the date of the new year was not set in stone, but rather it danced across the calendar. The Babylonians, for instance, celebrated the new year during the first new moon after the vernal equinox, heralding the start of spring. For the Romans, initially, the new year began in March, the month named after Mars, the god of war. However, later Roman kings shifted it to January, named after Janus, the god of beginnings and transitions. This change was influenced by lunar cycles and agricultural seasons, as January marked the quiet period after the harvest. Meanwhile, in the East, the Chinese New Year, also known as Spring Festival, was and still is determined by the lunar calendar. It falls between January 21 and February 20th, celebrating the arrival of spring. Despite these variances, a significant shift occurred in the 16th century with the introduction of the Gregorian calendar by Pope Gregory XIII. He declared January 1st as New Year's Day, a date that was already widely celebrated in Europe due to the Roman influence. This was a major step towards global standardization, although not all countries adopted it immediately. Britain and its colonies, for example, didn't start observing January 1st as New Year's Day until 1752. The adoption of the Gregorian calendar was not just a matter of switching dates. It was a complex process influenced by politics, religion, and the pursuit of accuracy in timekeeping. This calendar, with its 365.25 days per year, was more in sync with the solar year, thus preventing the drift of seasons over